Countless people have attempted the Pokemon Pacifist run, many claiming to be successful, but they always end up cheating with something like status effects and indirect damage. I mean, what type of pacifist goes around poisoning people? But that sparks the question, can you truly beat Pokemon without ever dealing damage in any form? The answer is weather. Both hail and sandstorm deal damage just by existing, 1/16 HP per turn. Now, I had my source of guilt-free damage and was ready to embark on this journey. I took Turtwig as my starter and let him evolve into Snover at level 6 so that I could actually spawn Weather. Now going into my first fight, Snover's ability spawned Hail on the Starly. It was dealing damage, but not enough. I would need to survive for 16 turns. Now looking through my available encounters, I noticed Bidoof, the savior of this fight. Bidoof has high base defense and can lower the opponent's attack with Growl. Getting 5 of them gave me the invincible team I needed to beat youngster Tristan 40 minutes in. Unfortunately, this invincible team couldn't even beat the first gym. To beat all 3 Pokemon, I would need to survive over 50 turns. After looking through every Pokemon available to me, I decided Geodude and Onix were the best options. But Onix had the stats, and when trying to level them up, I realized that I have to actually level them up. Now before reaching the daycare, this would take forever, so I decided to allow attacks purely when grinding for levels. But don't worry, the challenge still took a while. So with 4 Onix that knew Harden, I had the perfect tanks to go in with Snover. Nearly 2 Onix died against Geodude, but the run wasn't gone yet. Unfortunately, as Cranidos came through, he demolished my entire team. On my next try, I realized I still had Bidoof. He could survive just long enough to lower Cranidos' attack. If I got somewhat lucky with his choice of moves, I could survive all 16 turns. And from there, the final Onix was easy. Now, 3 hours in, with 1 badge, I wasn't hopeful, but I was at the point of no return. Continuing my journey, I thought it was going well. I found Pachirisu, who could lower the enemy's attack by 2 stages, but it wasn't enough. Not for Gym 2. I looked through every Pokemon with the sole goal of surviving as long as possible. First, I got Noctowl. Now he was grass resistant and could put them to sleep. Next, I caught some Dustox. They aren't especially tanky, but it does learn Protect and Moonlight, which can heal. So after leveling everyone up, I stepped back in and lost miserably to Cherubi. And it's at this very moment that I realized this challenge isn't always about tanking attacks. It's about restricting my opponents from even attacking in the first place. You see, Cherubi knows Leech Seed, and once this is down, it's game over. Leech Seed counteracts any damage Weather would do in the first place. I needed a way to stop it, but there wasn't one. No one was just immune to grass type, so in desperation, I wandered around the map. Eventually, I made my way into Mount Coronet, only able to take a few steps before my path was blocked. But in these few steps, the challenge permanently changed for the good. Now why does Cleffa matter? Well, to start, it learns Sing and Encore, which forces the opponent to use the same move over and over again. But the true revelation here was his ability, Magic Guard, which stops all indirect damage. Now this means no Leech Seed, and I wouldn't take damage to my own hail. The perfect solution. So I went back in, and with Cherubi down, Roserade came out. Now here is where Dustox came to use. My entire team, except for these guys, were out, but somehow they managed to survive through Roserade and Turtwig. So at long last, the second gym badge was mine. Now I wouldn't go on to the 3rd gym just yet. I had to make a stop at Salacian Town, the most important area of this whole run. Now here lay the daycare, a place not just to level up, but to breed. Now remember how Cleffa learned Encore before? Well, so does Mr. Mime, and Mr. Mime can breed with Kadabra. Still, why does this matter? Well, Kadabra learns a move called Disable, and when you breed them together, you get an Abra that can learn Encore and Disable. And this was truly the biggest breakthrough of the entire run. So let me explain, right? Encore locks an opponent into using the same move over and over. Disable stops the Pokemon from using their most recent move. If I were to disable the only move they're allowed to use, they would have no choice but to struggle. Now struggle deals damage to me, but also deals 25% recoil damage. But because it's their own attack, this strategy is perfectly legal. But this is where Salacium blesses me again with Chansey, one of the biggest tanks in all of Pokemon Diamond. So for the first time in this challenge, I went into the next gym with high hopes. Veilstone was easy. I'm being serious. This gym was genuinely not a challenge. Meditite and Machoke were out to struggle, and I could weather stall Lucario. And this trend continued. I started speeding through the game, and I reached Pastoria City. Now this Gyarados nearly sweeped my entire team, and it was all up to Blissey to try and weather stall his whole team. But how? Blissey was a tank, but not invincible. Well, that is, unless I make it invincible. Enter Operation Don't Die. Now first, I gave Blissey Minimize and Flash. Minimize raises Blissey's evasiveness, while Flash lowers the opponent's accuracy, but together I become nearly impossible to hit. Next up, I give a Sync, so that even if it could land a hit, it wouldn't matter, cause it's asleep. But say somehow I get hit, right? It still doesn't matter, because of Soft Boil, which can heal half my HP. So with this strategy, they didn't stand a chance. bringing me through this rival fight and on to the 5th gym. Now the lead Pokemon Driftblim was a complete ripoff of Chansey, just spamming Minimize and forcing me to weather stall it. Gengar wasn't special, nah, he was just powerful. Way too powerful, with his poison and confusion wiping out my entire team, one by one. Through this though, he made way for the comeback of Cleffa. Cleffa wouldn't be affected by poison or confusion. This got me through the gym easily, and somehow, Gym 6 wasn't too different. My Kadabras had Bronzor and Steelix down, and I could easily weather stall through Bastiodon. Honestly man, this challenge was getting way too easy. Gym 7 was unlike anything I'd ever seen, and the first problem was its typing. Everyone except for Medicham was immune to hail. They could even spawn it in. All my damage had to come from the Kadabra strat. I thought about using Sandstorm to deal weather damage, but honestly, I didn't feel like it. I started out by getting a 3rd Kadabra, but this didn't even help at all. The problem clearly stemmed deeper than this. After a while, I realized that if I could raise the opponent's attack, they would take more recoil damage from Struggle. The only move that I could actually do this with was Swagger, but that would confuse them. I could get past this though by using Trick and switching a Confusion Healing Berry onto them, so I spent a while preparing this strat, until I realized Gen 4 is the first gen that makes recoil damage consistent for Struggle, rendering this idea completely useless. So next, I thought about a Shedinja strat, but he was only post-game in Gen 4, and it seemed like I'd picked the worst possible game for this challenge, until I came up with the most high IQ strat, possibly, of all time. Skitty's ability is Normalize, which makes every move normal type. If I were to use Assist, which uses a random move that another Pokemon on my team knows, I could land Skill Swap. If that other Pokemon was Haunter, I would have the enemy only able to hit a ghost with normal attacks. True invincibility. The crazy part though, is that Skitty is post-game. There was no easy way out. And believe me, I spent time looking for a strategy, going through every Pokemon, but nothing stood out to me. I soon realized that my original team was made to force Struggle, but also handcrafted to survive. I didn't need to change a thing, but if hail doesn't work, just surviving is useless, right? I thought so too, but you'll see in a second. Okay, so Snover had Leech Seed. This would ruin the run, but if I just got lucky, the Kadabra strat would get me to Medicham. Now this thing could one-shot me, but would also use Bulk Up a lot, and since it wasn't immune to hail, I could just spam Sleep with Snover and get the win. Once again risky, but it worked. Now Sneasel was just as powerful, but it was immune to hail, and I was honestly stumped on this for a while, until I witnessed its one fatal flaw. You see, Sneasel knows Taunt, which disables all status-based moves, and for me, that's everything, so I was forced to use Struggle. But because it wasn't even my choice, it was completely legal, and Sneasel fell to its own power. Now Abomasnow is where the whole survival aspect comes back in. I brought Blissey and some X defenses. Now these were legal, but after this fight I decided to outlaw them. Anyway, Abomasnow was still immune to hail, but just like every Pokemon, he had a set number of moves that he could use, until everything was gone. Blissey survived every blow, until Abomasnow was forced to take himself out with Struggle. So after a 9-hour fight, I was ready to face the final gym. On my way there, I had to make a stop and fight this man Cyrus. Spoiler alert, it did not go well. This time though, it was different. Among the rebel, there wasn't even a glimmer of hope. I couldn't give up though, so I spent an hour and a half scrolling through Pokemon DB looking for a solution. But still, I found nothing. Absolutely nothing, except my willingness to accept the truth. I was massively underleveled, and while even now I question the decision, I decided to allow rare candies. I set a level cap, 20 above the next gym, but I honestly didn't have even more time to spare grinding. But with this, I went back and lost. So I was like, hold on, what's happening now? It's supposed to be easy. I ended up bringing another tank on the team, Bronzong. He had the stats and the typing, topped off with a heal block to restrict this man from recovering HP. From here, the fight was easy, and with Dialga in my hands, I entered the final gym. But I won't even lie, it was easy. The trainers were harder, honestly, and for an electric gym, there was a bit of a lack of electricity. But yeah, all I had to do was weather stall everyone until I got the win. Now, I was approaching the final stretch. Every struggle I went through, every strategy I made, all leading up to this one moment. Before I went in though, I had some preparing to do. Step 1 was picking a team. First slot went to Abomasnow, irreplaceable throughout the run, and that wouldn't change here. Second and third went to 2 Kadabras. I did make a change though. One of them got Torment instead of Disable, which would stop the opponent from using the same attack twice in a row. This would only force Struggle every 2 turns, but it lasted permanently. Encore still expired though, so it wasn't overpowered. Slot 4 went to Blissey, carried the run as a tank and earned the slot as much as anyone else. Slot 5 was Clefable. He could kill himself to revive someone else, lower enemy attack, and use Reflect. This halved the damage taken from physical attacks, and given that Struggle was physical, it was a game changer. And lastly, Dialga came on. He was my best tank yet, and had great typing. He knew double team, but also heal block for utility. With all this done, I gave rest to a few Pokemon so they could heal, and taught anyone with a spare move Protect. Final stage of prep was held items. I decided to give Clefable the light clay, which extended the duration of Reflect. Everyone else though got the leftovers, and I had to grind these for hours. It was a 1 in 1,000 chance every time I beat a wild Pokemon. Eventually though, I got all 5, and everyone could restore 1/16 HP each turn. Finally, I got everyone to level 100, and stepped into the Elite Four, and after this rival fight, I was expecting an easy time. This was honestly pretty easy. Kadabra had a few Pokemon, and Dialga made his debut performance here with the Weather Stall. And damn, he delivered. I realized here though, that for this to be at all possible, I needed to heal in between fights. Quagsire was gone to Abomasnow, my Kadabras took care of Golem and Sudowoodo, and I could Weather Stall Hippowdon in Whiscash. Here, I was introduced to the value of Torment Kadabra, and this allowed me to sweep the fight and proceed to... This was more of the same, nothing difficult, which left me in high hopes, as I moved on to the finale of the hardest challenge I'd ever attempted. By this point, I'd overcome so many struggles, even got through Gym 7, it was too late to turn back. For Spiritomb, I had to Weather Stall. Its ability Pressure would double my PP usage, and with a move like Encore, this wouldn't work. Doing this wasn't a problem though, and I ended up taking out Lucario and Garchomp with my Kadabras. Next up was Roserade. I usually hate this Pokemon, but with a mix of Sleep and Heal Block, I could easily Weather Stall it. Blissey Weather Stall with Gastrodon, and Kadabra took care of Melodic. But right before the final hit, I made sure to bring out this man, and end the challenge the same way it started. And so, marked the end of a 45-hour challenge, and possibly the greatest achievement of my life. Only contender is when I beat Pokemon Ultra Sun with the worst possible Pokemon.